The new nod-krai Archon quest has been nothing short of cinematic. We befriended a moon goddess, raided the Fatui's laboratory, and faced off with one of the 5 sinners of Khaenri'ah, Rerir the Rächer of Solnari. And now we may be able to put together exactly what happened to him and how he's connected to the moons. So let's start with going over what we learned in the Luna 1 Archon quests. First is the tragic tale of the moons. 2 of the moons, the Eternal Moon and the Iridescent Moon, were shattered in a great catastrophe brought on by the Descenders. This catastrophe is likely the result of the Voyager from beyond, who arrived in Hyperborea, and the first angel falling in love, who together staged a rebellion against the heavens. The ensuing chaos caused all 3 moon goddesses to perish, and it was prophesied that a moon goddess would return, which did happen, but not in the way the Frost Moon Scions hoped. That goddess was Kutar. Born 500 years ago, she once lived with the Frost Moon Scions who worshipped her, but their greed led Kutar to realize that they only sought to use her. So she left and joined the Fatui, hoping to find a second family. She became the 3rd Fatui Harbinger, Columbina the Damselette. But she soon discovered that they too only wanted her for her power. After fulfilling her duties to the Tsaritsa and using up a sizable portion of her powers, she resigned and is now hiding in nod-krai, but the Fatui are still after her, and they also want a certain relic that belongs to the Frost Moon Scions, the Moon Marrow, which is the coalesced power of the fallen eternal moon goddess Arya. This Moon Marrow isn't just coveted by the Fatui, but also by one of the 5 sinners of Khaenri'ah, Rerir the Rächer of Solnari and the leader of the Wild Hunt. When we asked Columbina about the Wild Hunt, she talks about Rerir and the intelligence the Fatui had on him. He has this crazy obsession with the moons, and is said to have fallen into the moon's reflection from which there is no return. Rerir's body was destroyed and shattered into a bunch of pieces, scattered across nod-krai. He was able to regain a phantom form, but he still wants his real body back. As he goes searching for those pieces, he realized that he can use Kuvaki to get stronger. And in the end, we weren't able to stop the giant Kuvaki cannon in Nasha Town from firing in time, so he did in fact regain a physical form, though he isn't quite happy with it as he can barely muster up 10% of his original strength. So we have no idea what Rerir is truly after or what fuels his crazy obsession with the moons. What I do suspect, however, is that he is in some way, shape, or form related to the Crimson Moon. From Lauma, we learned that the remnants of the iridescent moon were never found and are missing. When the iridescent moon was shattered, its shadow fell into the abyss and became the Crimson Moon. The Crimson Moon is often associated with death and destruction, often appearing during calamities, including the Cataclysm. In the description of Shattered Moon, the polearm weapon appearance, it tells us that Rerir in particular wields the abyssal version of the power of death. This makes sense looking at the undead nature of the Wild Hunt and Rerir's design. If you look closely on his palms, you'll see red eyes, just like the ones associated with Renova, the Shade of Death. Also, Rerir's title, the Rächer of Solnari, translates to Avenger of Solnari. Solnari is likely the name of the iridescent moon, so as his title suggests, he may be trying to avenge Solnari, the iridescent or crimson moon. But why? For what reason does he see the need to avenge the iridescent moon? In truth, we don't really know the fine details of how the moons were destroyed, other than the fact that it all happened during a great disaster. There is one detail, however, mentioned in the moonlit bamboo forest, that specifically states that the moon goddesses turned on each other during the catastrophe. This detail alone might single-handedly explain the existence of the Crimson Moon. Allow me to explain. It's possible that the goddess of the iridescent moon was betrayed by her fellow moon sisters during the calamity as suggested in the moonlit bamboo forest. If that's truly the case, then vengeance might explain why the iridescent moon's shadow twisted into the crimson moon after her death, embodying death and destruction. The iridescent moon's anger, rage, and bitterness from being betrayed manifested into the crimson moon upon her death. Perhaps that's why Rerir is called the Rächer of Solnari. He might now be the vessel for the moon's revenge, the abyssal embodiment of the crimson moon. And how would Rerir even get to this point? Let's recall the Moon Marrow, which is the coalesced power of the goddess of the eternal moon. The traveler, due to their unique constitution, is able to conceal the Moon Marrow in their body. But according to Lauma, the other moon chanters that have done this have usually perished within a few days. Since the iridescent moon is destroyed and its goddess is dead, there should be a moon marrow or something similar existing for the iridescent moon somewhere. One theory I can put out is that it all fell into the abyss, which would explain how the crimson moon came into being. And this is where Rerir might come in. If the remnants of the iridescent moon really did fall into the abyss, Rerir could have found it and tried to absorb it. But similar to concealing the moon marrow in one's body, the cost of this would have affected him greatly. Under normal conditions, such a thing would end a person as Lauma described. But since he is a Khaenri'ah cursed with immortality, this would have simply destroyed his physical body, allowing him to later regain a phantom form. This could be what Columbina means when she said that Rerir fell into the moon's reflection. The moon's reflection likely refers to the crimson moon. So if I'm right about the crimson moon being the remnants of the iridescent moon that have fallen into the abyss, becoming a manifestation of her anger and desire for vengeance, Rerir absorbing that power may have left him with this unrelenting obsession with the moons, turning him into a vessel for the will of the crimson moon. Thus, he becomes the Rächer of Solnari, the avenger of the iridescent moon. But that would only explain half of it because the original moon goddesses are dead. The real question is, however, what he plans to do now. Does he plan to recreate the Crimson Moon or do something far more sinister? Because even though the 3 original goddesses are dead, there's still one moon left unshattered, the Frost Moon. Just like the moon marrow of the Eternal Moon, there surely is one for the Frost Moon. But when asked Columbina about it, she doesn't have it, so it must be on the moon still. Perhaps Rerir's final goal may be to destroy the Frost Moon and take its power. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes after Columbina as well. If this is true, this may be part of the reason the Fatui want her out of nod-krai. If we recall from the Archon quests, Columbina used up majority of her powers when she was still with the Fatui. And after she teleported the Traveler and Co. during Polonia's battle with Rerir, she realizes that her powers may not be coming back. She also expressed wanting to return to the moon herself so that she can find her own answers about herself. So if the Frost Moon or Columbina is a target of Rerir, this puts her in a very dangerous position. If you go back to Silver Moon Hall for the moon goddess's favor, Columbina talks about her time with the Fatui. She was never given much to do or sent out on missions like the other Harbingers. Also, she never betrayed the Fatui in the first place, so there's probably little reason she has to get in their way, if that's what they're worried about. That is, unless of course they want to try to stop her from going to the moon and getting her answers, or want to extract every ounce of Kuvaki that she possesses. But there is so much more lore to talk about in nod-krai, which I'm going to talk about in subsequent videos. So let me know your thoughts and theories and consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.